let's say you're looking for a dog, or you're assisting someone who's looking for a working dog. And I know that the term working dog, right, it's a huge spectrum there. But what types of traits are you looking for in a dog, as far as maybe at what age do you start looking, and what types of behaviors in that dog are you looking for, or maybe some behaviors that you're looking to avoid?
So that's a great question, Rich. So the first thing we look at, so we go to Europe 3 to 4 times per year to find dogs, because we're constantly looking for dogs. Like it's not one of those things where we have an academy coming up and we've got to get dogs for the academy. We're in the search for the right dogs every day. So when we're over there, and we're having, the first thing we do, which is very different, we go to a lot of vendors, and Department of Defense comes in maybe 2 days before us, and they'll buy every dog that they have, with a very, very different testing process. For us, we're more of a specialized company, so we're not buying dogs in bulk. We're testing dogs. If we test 100 dogs, we might find 8 to 10 that make the cut. So the first thing we look for is how open the dog is socially, which is, I think, one of those misconceptions where we're going, hey, we need a dog to bite bad guys and get involved in very serious confrontations. And the old mindset was a dog that was a little bit less in tune with humans, that didn't want to socialize. But the first thing we look at is how social the dog is. And if that looks good, then we look at environmentally. How does the dog carry himself in different environments? Is there a huge variation from when the dog is on a grass field to when we bring him into a tight, dark room? And so if we get through social skills, a dog that's able to deal with social pressure, a dog that's able to deal with constantly changing environmental pressures, then we start to look at some of the behaviors that are more necessary for working dogs, where how they bite, are they willing to bite things that are unfamiliar? Is their grip? We talk about the grip a lot, because the grip of the dog is kind of like a barometer of what's happening internally. And, I think, especially, I know for me, from experience, like when I first started watching dogs bite, I looked at it very differently than I do today.
So like, George, let me interrupt you real quick. So like a big full mouth bite would be like representing that dog is 100% committed to that, versus a bap, 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 might mean that it's not fully committed and it's maybe acting out of fear or something. Is that, am I along the right lines there? Or?
Absolutely. So, I mean, a good, easy way to think about it is, a good full mouth bite. When the dog has the opportunity, is he biting deeper in the same place? Because it tells us internally what's happening for the dog. Now, as we start to add other pressures, does the grip change? Right? Was he completely full when he had all 4 feet on the ground and he was in a comfortable environment? As we add pressure, whether it's environmental or social, whatever it might be, does that grip change? And how much does it change? And if we see big variation in grips, it's usually not going to be a dog that's going to make our program.
Interesting. George, there's so much to talk about here. First of all, I will say this. Being a canine handler as a police officer was the hardest thing I did. And I mean, I was on SWAT. I did defensive tactics, firearms training. I did a lot of things. And being a canine handler was the most difficult collateral duty that I've had. And I remember at the time, I was the only canine handler on our department. We had a canine before, but that canine had retired. So I was now the only canine handler on the department. And so guys would be like, oh my gosh, here you're going to canine training again. And, they just thought it was like a total, screw off session or like an excuse to get out of work. They didn't understand, like, dude, it is maintenance training every day. Like, I remember the first time I didn't have my dog, because my dog had, I went to another assignment and then came back on patrol without a dog. And I was like, this is so easy. I mean, I just got to drive around and if I have to pee, I know it, I don't have to train the dog all the time. I don't have to listen to neighboring agencies' radio traffic to see if this is a dog call that I need to go to. And then also, as far as responsibility, I was a relatively young officer, but I had a tremendous responsibility because I was ultimately the one deciding, do I send my dog on this suspect? Does this rise to that level? Because even though, of course, I had a sergeant and a lieutenant and all that, they weren't as well versed in canine, law and all that stuff, canine tactics as I was. Now, they could override me and say, no, you're not using your dog on this. But I could also override them if they say, use the dog on this. I could say, no, we're not doing that. So it's a lot of responsibility, and it's great. I mean, I'll tell you what, you feel emboldened. You feel like you got a partner with you all the time. And I've been in a few foot pursuits in my day, but not one when I had that German Shepherd rock in the back of the Ford Explorer. You know what I mean? Nobody ran. So it's a huge tool, but it's a tremendous responsibility. And where I was going with that was, it was difficult and challenging enough for me just doing the maintenance training. So I, at that time, had tremendous respect for the people who train the dogs up to the point where we as police officers get them, because I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine how much patience you have to have and how much knowledge you have to have as you're training a dog, because I've seen dogs that they can be ruined by their handlers, man. If the handler overcorrects or corrects at the wrong time, there's a lot of ways you could screw up a dog. But I have a ton of respect for you and people like you who are taking this pup and creating this working dog that's doing unbelievable things, some things that humans cannot do. So it's just a really great tool.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's one of the most rewarding parts is when we take this dog and we get him to use the senses he has naturally, and we're intensifying those, and we're putting him into a purpose that has such value, especially in law enforcement, where we have guys that one of the biggest, I guess, thrills or most rewarding experiences we get from our police dogs is when we hear, we wouldn't have found this guy without the dog. Or,
yes.
This dog, we've had several dogs over the years take rounds. A very close friend of mine, he said the dog saved multiple officers by taking those rounds, which it's a horrible thing, but it's also the ultimate purpose of what we're developing. And it hurts, but at the same time, it gives us a lot of pride that we're putting out the dogs that do the things we need them to do when it's those critical moments.